this is One Broke Gamer Girl, and this is my review of What Remains of Edith Finch for the PlayStation 4. I picked up this game a little while ago on sale and pushed it to the side until I was tired of playing the games that I was playing and wanted something that wouldn't take too long to play, but still had a decent story. I decided to play this game because I heard a couple of my buddies raving about this game, so I decided why let it sit on my system even longer than it had to, and decided to play. After playing for a little over 2 hours, I was able to get all of the trophies for this game, which means it's time for a review. What Remains of Edith Finch is a first-person walking simulator. There are a lot of these games lately, right? Anyway, in this game, you play as Edith. Edith has just lost her mother and has been given a key to her old family estate. An old family estate that she used to live in until some tragic accidents happened, and her mother forced a young Edith to leave this place she absolutely loved. She'll wander around the estate as she's finally able to access areas of the house that were off limits to her before as a young girl and learn about the Finches who came before her and what happened to each of them, as they each have a story to tell, even Edith.
And I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house. I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms. Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately. I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral.
This game is a little weird to start off with, but once you get into it, it's a really tragic game that tells us the story of what has to be one of the most cursed families ever created. Every single one of the Finches who lived in this old family estate has died for some weird reason, and you'll get the chance to play out each untimely death. Some of the deaths are weird and not even all that well explained out, as it leaves it to the player to kind of figure out what happened, and some are just disturbing, as you can kind of tell what's going to happen as the story begins, while others are just plain sad. The overall feeling of this game is weird and sad at the same time, as it's kind of a downer. The playability of this game is pretty simple, considering that it's a walking simulator. You'll have to do some other things that aren't really explained to you as you go through each of the Finch's stories and find out how they met their untimely death. You'll eventually have to learn for yourself, and while this is frustrating at times, once you get the hang of the game, it's not really a problem. The only thing that the lack of instruction does is intrude on the story a little, as when you have to learn new controls for different stories, it just puts a little hindrance on the actual story of the game. Other than that, there were no bugs or glitches in my seamless playthrough of this game.
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to. The woods around the house have always been uncomfortably silent, as if they're about to say something but never do.
The graphics for this game have to be one of my favorite graphics for a game. The art style is just beautiful in this tragic tale, as each story is different, and the art style for each story differs as well. Always played in the first-person perspective, there are times when you'll play through a comic book style of storytelling, and another part where you'll play by looking through a camera. The way that the art style and graphics of this game changed so easily and flawlessly was a big hit with me, and I really enjoyed it. There are a total of 9 trophies for this game, but this is one of those games where the trophies really don't matter, and you shouldn't just play this game for the trophies, even if they are super easy. You should play this game because it's a beautifully tragic game that has a pretty amazing story to tell, even if it is a downer and left me a little depressed at the end. Anyway, this is one of those games where you can basically get all the trophies except one in the first playthrough. If you happen to miss a few, which I did, you can go back through chapter select and get them so you don't even have to play the whole game again. Once again, another game with no multiplayer, which makes me extremely happy that I've been on this binge of single-player games. Overall, I give this game a 4 out of 5. Here's what's great about it. This is a heavily story-based game that tells the tale of the tragic lives of the Finches as Edith returns to her family estate to find out more about her family and record the events of what happened to them. Also, some stories are straight to the point, some stories are a little bit more obscure, and others are just plain sad, making this game diverse, but also just a really sad game, and sometimes sad games are okay. Not to mention that while at times I wasn't a fan of the gameplay or the story itself, I was a huge fan of each and every different scene in the game and the graphics that came along with it, as the art style changed depending on the story that was being told. I thought that this was creative and actually brought a lot to the game. Here's what's not so great about it. This game is a walking simulator in a sea of walking simulator games, and although it stands out, it has its moments of making you try something new, only to find yourself asking possibly out loud, what the hell am I supposed to do, when the game turns into something that's not a walking simulator. The change-up was always sudden and threw you for an unexpected loop. Also, the situations in this, although not always to the point, are really tragic and are a major downer. I know that this game is supposed to be like that, and while this really isn't a bad thing, it's just a little warning that this game really isn't for everyone, and might be a little too depressing, or might hit a little too close to home for some people. This was one of those one-and-done games, and I really enjoyed it, even though it was extremely tragic and left me feeling a little depressed and empty at the end. I would say that the highlights of this game were the well-crafted story, as well as the graphics and the art style of this game. The ever-changing gameplay of this game was a bit of a downer, and did ruin some of the scenes that were short-lived, as you try to learn new controls for a segment that maybe lasted a few minutes at most. I would say that if you're looking for a game that is heavily story-based and don't mind a little sad and depressing, then give this game a try because it's worth it. If you don't like walking simulators or sad games because sometimes they can hit too close to home, then I would say to give this game a pass.
For the first time in years, I felt like I was home. But instead of a family, there were just memories of one. Like how after Louis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly. Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth. Edie told me once that every Finch who ever lived is buried somewhere in the library.
This is One Broke Gamer Girl. I just want to say a big thank you for watching this video. If you liked what you just watched, then go ahead and hit that like button down below. One more thing, since you've already hit the like button down below. You've already hit the like button down below, right? Well then, why not go ahead and go one step further and leave a comment too? Since you've already hit the like button and left a comment, you did both of those already, right? Then why not just take one more tiny little step and hit the subscribe button as well? Just one more thing, since you've already come this far, would you kindly check out the links in the description? That way you can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and maybe even check out my blog.